So T-Gas, welcome to Swiss Resort. Thanks a lot for joining myself and Waterski Nation in this unique series we're doing called The Ultimate Skier. And so your episode is about the one-handed gait. You've kind of, you've done a one-handed gait for a lot of years, and walk us through what you think is like your keys that you need to do, like when you're setting up at the Masters or at the World Championships, and it's time to get a good gait at 39. What is it that you want to make sure you're going to cover to get the result you want?
I think one of the most important things for me for my gait is timing and speed and width. These are the three components that I pay attention mostly during these events and also in training. I always try to carry a lot of speed through the turn, and but not overshooting the gate. Being wide at the right point at the right time, it's very important for me.
Okay.
Carrying more speed through the turn always allows me to be lighter on my rope.
Okay.
And behind the boat.
And so how do you feel? So you've done a one-handed gait for more than 10 years now.
Yep.
What do you feel is the advantage to those things you described when you do a one-handed gait versus a two-handed gait? Because you can definitely achieve all those things that you just described if you're doing a two-handed gait. But
yeah, I agree. But throughout these years that I've done the one-handed gait, I also a couple times I went back and tried a two-handed gait. And the thing that made me stick with the one-handed gait is I always felt that I get an early release with a one-handed gait. With a two-handed gait, even watching movies frame by frame, I always getting a little bit later into my exchange into number one.
So it's speed. Like if you're able to change your edge earlier into one ball, that means you must be going faster, still carrying the same amount of energy out.
Yeah, and release earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. That's cool. That's cool. So, did you, how did you? Obviously, you saw somebody do it, and you said, "I want to try that." And how long did it take you to go from a two-handed gait to where you thought, "Okay, I'm going to pull this off at the Masters, or I'm going to pull this off at the Worlds"?
No, it actually took me a while because when I tried it, it was the first time I remember it was in Santo Domingo, and my coach back then was Bubu Alessi, and he said, you should try this and see if it works. And it was a big change, even if I was progressing into it, because the pullout was later. It was a lot of more speed, a lot of more width. Everything happens a lot faster. So you got to be quicker, reactive, and more ready to something to happen. But even after that I start getting used to it in a tournament, it was like, how do I, I was a little bit skeptical. It's like, okay, do I do a two-handed gait? Do I do a one-handed gait? So it took me a little bit until I nailed it down. And I said, okay, is this really working for me or not? And then I have to pick either one or the other. And then I tried to perfect it a little bit better. And back then, during those times, I think a lot of skiers were doing the one-handed gait because it was kind of like a new thing. A lot of people would try it, they like it. Nowadays, a lot of people went back to the two-handed gait. But I think it's still the best option for me.
Yeah. And, obviously, like, you got a lot of good stuff about your skiing, and we're honing in on your one-handed gait. You've been doing it for more than 10 years without going back to it. You clearly, you clearly are doing it well. You're consistently, placing at high pressure events. The gait is so key at a big event, and if you're sticking with that one-handed gait, it really, you obviously feel that you have it consistent. So that's super cool for you.
Yeah, I still try to tweak a lot of things, even in practice. It's like, okay, should I move my shoulder this way? Should I, my vision, how much I pull out, the intensity, how long do I pull out? Do I pull out a little bit earlier or try a little bit later and make it a little quicker? You always try to find the perfection, especially, I try to be a little bit of perfectionist, especially on my gait. And, that's the fun part, that you always try something different. You always try to make it better.
Right. That's awesome. And so if you were one of your students came, because you do a lot of coaching now too, if one of your students came who was doing a two-handed gait and is like, dude, I'm all chips in, I want to commit, I want to do a one-handed gait, I want to be like T-Gas, how are you going to walk them through that? Like what are the steps of it? You just tell them pull out, let go, have a rip, see what happens, or do you have like a system that you could help people or anybody who's watching maybe make that transition a little easier?
I would try maybe the thing that I did in the past with other people was like, okay, try to take your pull out kind of the same as a two-handed gate and start slowly release the hand. And then once they get used to it a little bit and we start taking it down a little bit and make it a little quicker, more, more advanced, let's say. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it.
Yep.
I think it's a very personal thing to do. And, but I think step by step would be the best approach for me for other people, because if you go to a dramatic change, then people is like maybe freak out a little bit.
Well, obviously the consistency is going to drop
Yeah.
if you do something dramatic,
Yeah.
like you're saying. So awesome, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can you please give us your highlight for 2019, the moment when you woke up the next day and go, man, that was awesome, I'm glad I did that? Or
I have to. Well, winning Moomba was pretty good for me for the third time this year.
Yep.
And then the European Championships was also a big moment with me, because there's a lot of skiers, a lot of good skiers, and we end up doing a big runoff at the end, and it was me, Freddie, Brando, and Sasha, and I won my 7th title this year, so it gave me a good boost.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm pretty happy.
can you please tell us, obviously we're doing a video about the ultimate skier. I think it's undisputed that Andy Mapple's probably the greatest of all time. Can you tell us how he's impacted your skiing over the years? I mean, we realize that so much that we ski on, fins, boats, zero off, that kind of stuff, he touched and is still, affecting us. But how did he personally impact your skiing, either coaching you or just being a mentor or just being the guy you watched growing up?
Well, beside the fact that I grew up listening and hearing about, Andy Mapple and how great he was, but then when I finally moved to Florida and I got to meet him and hang out with him and talk to him, I remember this trip that we did in Mexico together, and it was a dream week, and I was actually sharing an apartment with Andy. And then one time he said, "I'll come in the boat with you," and I said, "Please do," and I was doing something and I told him, and he's like, "Okay, wait a minute." And we stopped the boat, we went back to the dock, and he started doing something on my bevels on the ski, on the edges of my ski. I was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, if you do this and this and this." And right away, it's like I went out and it was like the ski just worked completely different.
Wow.
So good. And I was like, I was so shocked, and that he was so open to help anybody in no matter what company you ski for, no matter, like, he loved the fact that we were sharing the same love for the sport, and he was very happy and very generous about helping others and helping progress.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.